Hello, and welcome back to AP Biology Notes. Today we're going to talk about the endocrine signaling and just kind of talk about the difference between non-steroid and steroid hormones, just to kind of further explain the questions that you were answering from the text. So this is going to be used in conjunction with your Google drag and drop and or your Google drawing, and we're just going to start by labeling the non-steroid diagram. So you're going to go over and you're going to pick up the non-steroid hormone label, and that's going to be the yellow triangle. And then you're going to label the little purple thing in the plasma membrane, the receptor protein. Notice that the non-steroid hormone shape, the receptor protein shape is complementary to the non-steroid hormone, just to show the specificity of how ligands only um, interact with certain target cells. And so then the purple represents the target cell membrane. Further down in the cell, we have the nucleus. And then ATP is going to be used to activate CAMP, which stands for cyclic AMP, and it is a secondary messenger. It's part of the transduction process. And CAMP isn't the only secondary messenger. We can also use calcium ions. Sometimes nucleotides and fatty acids act as secondary messengers. But their role is basically just to continue that signal cascade of transmitting the message further into the cell. So the secondary messenger is going to activate additional enzymes, causing that signal cascade, that phosphorylation process, which is going to lead to altered cellular function, which of course we would just call cellular response. So the signal transduction pathway, I'm going to be using abbreviations on the next slide, so I wanted to kind of go over what those are. 1R is just going to be reception. 2T is going to stand for transduction. So that's just the relay molecules that activate each other as they proceed through the cell. And then finally, 3R is the response. So where the drag and drop terms were on your Google drawing, you're just going to insert a text box, and we're just going to jot down kind of a summary of what's happening so that we have some words that match the pictures. So reception, the non-steroid hormone, and I'm abbreviating, binds to the receptor located on the plasma membrane. The transduction, the binding of the hormone to the receptor activates enzymes inside the cell, which they're then going to activate second messengers, so on and so forth. Signal cascade initiates a response. And so the response is just the cell responds. And again, it's just, I know we've been talking about general responses, but it's very broad. It depends on what cell we're talking about. There's so many examples. But let me give you one specific example to kind of tuck in the back of your head. Insulin. Insulin is a hormone that's produced in the pancreas. It travels through the bloodstream to other tissues in your body. When the insulin binds to the receptor protein on the plasma membrane, that's going to cause the glucose transport protein to open, allowing glucose to flow into the cells to be used in cellular respiration. Okay, now let's take a look at the steroid diagram. So the green shape is the steroid hormone. Notice that it passes through the membrane to bind to the receptor. When the receptor and the steroid hormone bind inside the cell, we call that the hormone receptor complex. And then it's going to continue to migrate through the nucleus, through one of the nuclear pores, and it's going to bind to DNA. That's going to initiate transcription, which is the rewriting of the DNA message into RNA, which is a form that can leave the nucleus. DNA can't, RNA can. Then RNA is going to travel through the cytoplasm, and we're going to use those instructions to create proteins at the ribosome. And then that will lead to an altered cellular function, which again is a response. So let's talk about the signal transduction pathway for steroid hormones. 1R will be reception, 2T transduction, 3R response. So again, where those terms were, let's open another text box and jot down a few things. So the reception is the steroid hormone binds to a receptor inside the cell. It's an intracellular receptor. So those two things are going to form the hormone receptor complex. It's going to migrate to the nucleus, initiate transcription, which is going to lead to protein synthesis. And the response is going to be gene expression. We're going to learn a lot more about gene expression in the coming weeks, but just know that gene expression basically means a gene is expressed when it's transcribed, and that transcription is going to lead to protein synthesis. So, the most classic example when we talk about steroid hormones are estrogen and testosterone. These activate genes which initiate our secondary sexual characteristics that we develop at puberty, which leads to the dimorphism or the differences between male and females of our species, adult male and females of our species. Okay, so I'm going to do a little review activity with my in-person kids, and it says to tilt your screen down so you can't see, but you're not going to want to do that because you're going to want to see the questions. And so they're going to pair up with someone. If you have someone in your household that you want to tell these answers to, just to, be fancy, feel free to do so. So let's say that you're presented with two diagrams on the AP exam. How will you be able to tell which diagram is a steroid hormone response? So if you have someone in your house to tell, go ahead and do that, or just say it out loud. Tell your dog, tell your cat, whatever. We'll just take a moment for you to explain. And then conversely, how would you be able to tell which diagram is a non-steroid response? And again, if you could say that out loud or tell a living organism in your household how you'd be able to differentiate between the two. So let's see how you did. So in a steroid hormone, it's going to pass through the plasma membrane. That's one way you'll be able to tell. So you can look and see if it penetrated the plasma membrane or not. Also, the steroid receptor complex is going to move into the nucleus, so that's another way you could tell. Any mention of DNA being activated, that's a way to tell. And if the response is a creation of a protein, then definitely the diagram is representing a steroid hormone. A non-steroid hormone is going to bind with a receptor on the cell surface. Okay, so it's going to be embedded in the plasma membrane and it will not pass through. So you can definitely see the difference if you look at the two diagrams. And the reception is going to activate secondary messengers. Oops, I wanted for that. So there's just kind of, you can see the difference between those two. All right, that's all I have for us. There's the Downton Abbey bells. All right, I'll talk to you again next time. Bye.